Hi, I'm Groglander, and in this part we'll be seeing what Chun-Nan Night looks like in the PS3 version. So, yeah, you just talk to Professor Pickle here, and he sends you on your way. And I mentioned before, this can be a little annoying, because you always have to go back to the Pickle to find out where to go next. He can't give you a call on your cell, or tells his communication device. You actually have to go see him. But then again, Pickle is an old-fashioned guy. He probably can't even get his VCR to stop blinking 12 o'clock. And you know what? I bet he doesn't even have a MySpace page. And to go back to the world map we just saw, you might have noticed the flag of Chun-Nan is clearly based off China, except instead of like yellow stars, it's a yellow phoenix. But you'll see what that means later. And you know, I do really like the look of this hub world, especially with the red Chinese lanterns. It's a nice little dash of colour. But whenever I'm in this hub, there's always an issue with like frame rate. Like it gets a bit choppy and sort of slows down, which is granted a problem with the game in general. But it doesn't happen all the time, of course. But nevertheless, I think it's got something to do with a waterfall in the back of the hub, which might cause a bit of slowdown. And I do like the little eccentric dance the village elder did there. Do the hustle, and so on. I think you can probably tell I'm actually quite tone deaf, but anyway, yeah. You see there the aforementioned waterfall, all those emitters and particle effects. Yeah, it probably takes its toll on the frame rate. Yeah, so you just need to talk to someone to open up the level select. Not too much trouble, I suppose. Wang the Impending. So yeah, we just talked to the impending Wang here, and we can move on. You know, I'm gonna resist the urge to make a Wang joke, just because it reminds me of Transformers 3. Deep Wang. Oh fucking hell! Did a 12-year-old write that script? But anyway, let's forget about let's forget about Transformers 3 for a second, and yeah, let's concentrate on the night level I'm about to play through. And of course, FYI, I am cutting out the loading times from now on. And the loading times aren't really a big issue, but when editing them out, I actually do lose like a minute or two off the total video time. So, yeah, granted, they're not a big issue, but they do seem to take up a lot of time. And, you know, at the risk of sounding repetitive, this game does look really good, especially with the lighting, which is of course done with the Hedgehog engine, which I've mentioned before. But yeah, it looks really good. And something I found out recently is that Sonic Generations, even though it's a HD Sonic game, and it was developed by the same people, it doesn't actually use the same lighting engine, which is why technically the lighting looks worse in Generations. And although I say it looks worse, I personally can't really tell the difference. But then again, in Generations, I could have been blinded by the better looking game. Like, even if this game has technically better graphics, that game has better design, if you know what I mean, better art style. But yeah, even so, that does seem odd to me, that they would spend ages making this lighting engine, the Hedgehog engine, and not use it in a main game. Or what I mean is only use it once here and not bother to use it again. But when I think about it, I have mentioned the frame rate issues in this game, which I thought you could sort of get rid of with a sort of a better programming, but maybe that's why they don't want to use it again. Frame rate issues. Oh wait, actually, I've just sort of double checked my facts, and apparently Sonic Generations does use the Hedgehog engines for graphics, and then the Havoc engine for physics, which is the same as Unleashed. So I don't know where I got the idea that Generations doesn't use the Hedgehog engine. It does. Now, when comparing the PS3 version to the PS2 version, this level I mean, something which is quite noticeable is the fact that in this version there's very little platforming. I mean, there is later on, but as you can see, we've just mainly been brawling. And I gotta say, in that respect, I prefer the PS2 version. I just think it's a bit more interesting. Because in this one, you can see we're just doing the same thing again and again, just mashing combos. Now, to talk about the music of this level, it's actually one of the better nighttime themes. Because where the others can be kind of slow-paced and more atmospheric, this one's kind of tense. And it's even got this sort of a funk to it, I suppose, or rhythm at least. And yeah, I like it. And something about Chinese music, or Far Eastern music in general, is that the secret of making a song sound Far Eastern is to use the pentatonic scale, which is like 5 notes only, which on a keyboard translates to the black keys. So if you want to play something that sounds Chinese-ish, just only play the black keys. And that's pretty much the only thing I learned about music in high school. I know at this point here you would just defeat wave after wave of enemies, and you can pick up some goodies. But for both our benefits, I double the speed of the footage. And really, you can see you're not missing too much. I'm just defeating enemies again and again. Enemies you've already seen before, so yeah. And I have to say, I'm not really a fan of these type of areas, because I think the battling in the Werehog levels, even though that's the point, can really slow them down anyway. But at the same time, sections like these are optional, so I can't really complain. When I come in here, I knew what I was doing. But if you've been watching this LP, you should know I'm trying to get as many medals as I can. So yeah, this little hut here hides a few secrets for me. You know, while researching China in general, you know, for this commentary, I did discover quite a few interesting facts. Although I'll just go through with them, and I'll tell you what I think, because I'm not really sure about them. Okay, fact 1: ice cream was invented in China around 2000 BC, when the Chinese packed a soft milk and rice mixture in the snow. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, I guess it could be true, but I was under the impression the ancient Romans invented ice cream, or gelato, as I called it in a previous video. But yeah, I suppose two cultures can come up with the same idea. Okay, another fact: China is the 4th largest country in the world. Okay, in the previous part I said it was the 3rd largest, or the 3rd largest landmass. So yeah, make of that of what you will. The Chinese year is based on the cycles of the moon. This is called a lunar schedule. A complete cycle of the Chinese calendar takes 60 years. The Chinese calendar dates back to 2600 BC. It is the oldest known calendar. Yeah, I accept that. And that is actually quite amazing, the fact that it takes 60 years to go around once. And also 2600 years, that's a pretty old calendar. Yeah, I mean, I already knew about the Egyptians that lived like 8,000 years ago and had a calendar, but I guess after their civilization fell, they didn't really nobody used it anymore. So I guess the Chinese gets points for, well, still being around. Okay, another nugget of information: the Chinese calendar is split into 12 different years, each based on a different animal. Which is actually something I know from the Jackie Chan adventures, and also school. It's one of the few things I was taught in primary school which I remember. And the story, if I recall, was, well, Buddha was going to come up with a calendar. He brought the 12 animals together and said, okay, let's have a race. and the order in which you finish will be the order of the years. And to talk about the actual game for a second, you can see here we have a waterfall section, similar to the PS2 version, I guess, but the thing is, you can see as I enter this area, the camera panned up to show the waterfall, like it was indicating me to go up there, like it was telling me where to go. But yeah, we don't really climb up the waterfall, so I guess they forgot to take out that camera animation. Either that or they just wanted to show off the fancy graphics they had created or something. And to talk about the Chinese calendar for a second again, something which I found out later is that there was actually a 13th animal, the cat, which was supposed to be entering the race together. And the story goes that the cat and rat were actually friends, but the rat tricked the cat into not entering the race at all, which, yeah, so that's why cat and rats hate each other, because rats are sneaky bastards. Makes sense to me, I suppose. But, yeah, I do actually like those kind of ancient world stories, which sort of explain the world, or at least come up with a legend to explain why the world is the way it is. And yeah, it does remind me of the Nancy the Spider stories I heard when I was a kid. And actually, as you can see now on screen, something introduced in this level is these sort of poles the Werehog draws back and launches himself. And you can see here there's like this line of flying electric enemies, which obviously I need to progress through. Well, you don't need to, but I need to, because I want those medals, damn it. But fortunately, they do put like an extra life in mid-air, so you can afford to do that as many times as you like. So yeah, at least they're sort of generous in that respect. It shows us some competent level design, I suppose. Now this part here is, yeah, it's something I recently discovered. Like before, when I played this level, I just took the normal route, but yeah, you can see now there's like an actual dragon to run along. And anyone who's seen the day version of Chun-Nan knows that you do this as Sonic himself. But I didn't know you did it as the Werehog. And it's quite a little cool little shortcut here. So I just look at him running like he's on fire, flailing his arms around like a maniac. That's actually a hilarious animation. But yeah, I mean, saying that, this dragon, you can see that I'm trying to traverse, can be quite dickish with its design. I mean, look at that, 4 buzzsaws and a flame plume. And I nearly slid off there, but yeah, that's a cool little sequence. Kind of a bit tricky to traverse. And actually, to sound a bit negative about the game for a second, this level could have done with more sequences like that, like more original pieces. Because as you can see, when I've been going through this level, I've been jumping across the same stone structures or the same pieces of the environment. Kind of repetitive. I guess it's not too bad, but yeah, a bit copy and paste with the assets, guys. Oh, and by the way, I just love making that awkward jump onto the floating crate. I lied. But actually, something I will say for this level is I do like the water graphics at night, with the sort of moonlight bouncing off the waves. It looks pretty fancy, I won't lie. Oh, and you can see now I'm speeding up the footage once again, just because this fight took quite a while. And you can see they sort of spam a big blob enemy, a couple of wizards, and some bees to act as the cherry on the fuck you sundae. God, you know, I don't know why I'm complaining about brawling, because it's what I expect, but yeah, still not a fan of it, still not a fan. And the sheer amount of enemies they throw at you at this point. Okay, it's not the worst combat level in the world, but it can be a bit tricky. I died several times while trying to do this. But saying that, I also died several times trying to do the awkward platforming as well. But, oh well. And so we're approaching the end of the level, and overall I would say despite its trickier parts, it's still quite enjoyable, really. But yeah, it could have done with like 5 minutes cut short, if I'm honest. But I'm not going to finish quite yet. I'm going to just take this little jump over here and get these medals hidden across here. And by the way, this jump can go down a fucking fire. It's so damn annoying. But you can see that you sort of have to do a long running jump and then press the double jump and hold grab. But your timing has to be like really spot on. And you can see here I can't make the jump back. But you know what, on the bright side with that, I do get all the medals within this stage. So that's a plus, I suppose. So that's pretty much it for Chun-Nan Night. Please join me again in the next part. Well, we'll be taking on the Dark Gaia Phoenix.